This episode of Reading Trek is brought to you by our patrons. You too can support this vibrant fan-based podcast network by visiting patreon.com/the-tricorder-transmissions. For as little as $1 a month, Patreons gain exclusive early access to some of our unedited shows, interviews, and even get to join in on exclusive Patreon-only chats. We have lots more Patreon content on the way that you won't want to miss, so visit patreon.com/the-tricorder-transmissions. Be sure to mention that Reading Trek sent you.
Put down that remote, set your phaser to stun, and pick up that comic book.
You do have books in the 24th century.
Welcome to episode 14 of Reading Trek, a Star Trek book club podcast, and proud member of the Tricorder Transmissions podcast network. My name is Marty Ali, and I am once again joined by my co-host William Conlon. Will, how are you doing today?
I am fantastic. I'm in the Mirror Universe right now, so I am evil.
Imagine the bandwidth it would take to Skype to the Mirror Universe.
An evil amount of bandwidth.
We're also joined by a very special guest today because this is our comics episode. We have our Tricorder comics guru, Shashank of PoliTreks. Shashank, how are you doing today?
Namaste, Homo sapiens. I am doing very, very evil. And since this is the Mirror Universe, by the rules of the universe, for maximum profit, I will be taking over Reading Trek very soon.
Are you the master of poisons?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
All right, since you're taking over Reading Trek, why don't you do the rest of the introduction?
Wow, that's way to put me on the spot, but sure. First off, thank you for having me back. I quite enjoyed our Star Trek Green Lantern crossover discussion and review, and just the positive feedback was lovely to hear. And I'm glad we are able to bring more comics to people. But for this one, this is the one that we're about to talk about, Star Trek Mirror Broken, Volume 1. That is one of my favorite series from last year. It's one of the most just genius, creative, imaginative, visionary mini-series that was pitched to IDW, and the series was so popular they went on to turn it into a full-fledged series, and now they're doing what is called Through the Mirror. But the actual mini-series itself is, if there ever actually was a next generation Mirror Universe TV/movie, if they picked up every panel from this book and just turned it into a scene and made it into a movie or TV show, that would be one of the greatest Trek things ever. So, I know I already gave my mini review, but I love this book. I'm so glad I get to talk about it. And this is going to be great.
Excellent. Well, we're excited to have you here for it. And a little bit later, we're actually going to have an audio interview that Marty and I did at WonderCon with writers David and Scott Tipton and artist Charlie Kirchhoff. So we're going to have some insights from the actual creators a little bit later, but let's get right into it.
Before we get into that, let's let everyone know what we're all about. For those who are new to the podcast, we are a book club podcast working our way through the Star Trek Expanded Universe one novel at a time, discussing the characters, plot, writing, and today the art, and piece it all together in the larger Trek universe as we pull out the meanings and messages of the text. Although we do encourage you to read along with us, the show is designed to give all Trek fans a way to journey through the EU together, even if you haven't read the books. Like Shashank mentioned, we are talking about Star Trek The Next Generation Mirror Broken, written by David and Scott Tipton with art by J.K. Woodward. Let's take a minute to tell everyone how they can get a hold of us if they want to continue the conversation. You can find us on Twitter at ReadingTrek. You can also find us on Facebook or online at readingtrek.thetricordertransmissions.com. You can also leave us a voicemail by calling 609-512-LLAP, 609-512-5527, or by email at readingtrekpodcast@gmail.com. All right,
I am definitely going to call into that voicemail. You might hear an Indian man with trying to do an American accent, trying to tell you guys to do more comic books. and specifically have Shashank on the show.
I will play that on air if that comes in.
We do have one message that we wanted to play. I believe this one came all the way from England. Yes, hello. Big fan of the show. Just a little bit more of William Conlon on there, please. Thank you.
And none for Gretchen Wieners. Bye. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the novel. But before we do, Black Alerts. This is your spoiler warning for Star Trek The Next Generation Mirror Broken, issues 0 through 5.
Black Alert. Black Alert.
William, would you like to go ahead and turn the page for us on Mirror Broken?
My pleasure. Stare into the mirror. In similar fashion to the Enterprise story arc in A Mirror Darkly, Mirror Broken takes place entirely in the Star Trek Mirror Universe. On board the ISS Stargazer, the ruthless engineer Lieutenant Reginald Barclay is plotting his advancement in ranks. The Terran Empire is in shambles, barely maintaining control over Earth's solar system and constantly fending off Klingon-Cardassian alliance attacks. Stargazer's captain, Jean-Luc Picard, seeks victory and glory, using his pet android Data and Inquisitor Deanna Troi to command the outdated Terran battleship with an iron fist. On board Stargazer, there is no safe space. A subordinate seeking a promotion is ready to assassinate a superior at every corner. Barclay is ordered to assist Security Chief Tasha Yar with the transfer of several thousand Vulcan slaves. When 2 of the transport ships are overrun, Yar destroys them, killing thousands of slaves to set an example. While she is commended for her actions and presented with a medal, it is actually a ruse by Picard to escape her personal security. In an unsuspecting moment, Barclay kills Yar and assumes the role of security chief. Later, while on patrol, ISS Stargazer detects a damaged Cardassian ship on the outer edge of the solar system. They make quick work of its crew, decompressing the shuttle bay and destroying the life support systems. The phaser and torpedo banks are a valuable bounty, and the ship is tractored back to Utopia Planitia shipyards. While processing the bounty and 2 Cardassian prisoners, Data hacks the Terran database and discovers the rumors of a Galaxy-class warship are true. Picard is intrigued and seeks out a former engineer on Stargazer, Geordi LaForge. Born blind, LaForge is constantly seeking ways to prove himself relevant, lest he becomes disposable. LaForge agrees to assist Picard and his crew in capturing the newly completed ISS Enterprise D and recruits his on-again, off-again lover, Leah Brahms. Brahms, a raging alcoholic, resets the command protocols for the Enterprise and positions Picard to take command from the despised captain, Edward Jellicoe. Knowing he would need a man on the inside, Picard seeks out Jellicoe's first officer, William Riker. After a brutal barroom brawl, Riker sees a strength in Picard and a way to advance his personal agenda, so he agrees to support the rebellion. As Jellicoe launches the ISS Enterprise, Picard and his most loyal soldiers board the ship and systematically take it over. After brutally relieving Jellicoe of his command, Picard takes him to the shuttle bay and decompresses it, leaving Jellicoe to the vacuum of space. In sickbay, Dr. Beverly Crusher and her seemingly mentally handicapped son, Wesley, prepare for their new assignment. Picard, who years earlier refused to authorize an inquiry into Jack Crusher's death, informs Crusher that he knows Wesley is actually a genius and shrewdly hiding it, behind a veil of stupidity. With the Enterprise now under his command, he needs a crack mind at the helm, and the only person qualified enough is Wesley. With his crew assembled and the most powerful ship in the galaxy under his command, Picard sets out to rebuild the Terran Empire. Before long, 3 Terran ships catch up with Picard. A skirmish between the renegade Enterprise and Terrans turns into a full-on battle when dozens of Klingon Cardassian ships arrive. After losing one of the Terran vessels, the makeshift fleet goes to warp while Picard and his crew concoct a plan. They will split the Enterprise into 3 ships, the Saucer, Star Drive, and Captain's Yacht, with the latter acting as a decoy piloted by Riker. After coming out of warp and engaging the enemy fleet, Picard uses the ISS Enterprise's 3 warp nacelles to attempt a daring version of the Picard maneuver, engaging and dropping out of warp numerous times to fire on the enemy. The Klingons and Cardassians retreat, and Picard is commended for delivering the Empire its first victory in years. He and his crew are absolved of their crimes and given command of the ship as they set out to make the Empire glorious again. The end, for now.
Nicely done, Will. Very nicely done.
Thank you.
So, guys, initial thoughts. What did you think about this?
Well, I said this to Marty earlier. I gave him a little preview of my thoughts for tonight. I have not read a lot of graphic novels in my life. I've read my fair share and a lot of the great standards. This instantly became my favorite graphic novel of all time. Hands down.
Nice.
That's high praise. Wow.
Well, I'm a huge fan of the Mirror Universe. I was always deeply, deeply disappointed that we never got a TNG Mirror Universe. We got yesterday's Enterprise, which is close, but just not quite there.
Is it though?
I mean, it's the closest thing we got, but it's not quite as ruthless. You know, they're not born ruthless. They're just dealing with the circumstances of their lives. So to have this come out, I remember being at STLV last year and seeing all the art that they had in the hallways of like Geordi with the giant gun and Data with the Borg arm, and I was so excited to read this. Marty and I picked up our copies at WonderCon in Anaheim earlier this year, and I fell in love with this series. I think it's just the perfect delivery and execution of a Mirror Universe tale set in TNG.
So what about you, Marty? What did you think?
I also really liked this graphic novel. The story was very engaging. It's a very simple story too. It's not totally convoluted. It's just Picard wants to get control of the Enterprise. That's the whole story.
Yeah. You know what I love most about the story is that it is the TNG's version of 2009 Star Trek. It shows you our main character somewhere other than where we know him to be, and then we see the story of how he gets there. Mm-hmm. Just like Kirk starts out as a vagrant, and then we end it with him becoming captain of the Enterprise in 2009 Star Trek. He starts off on a stargazer, but his ambitions are much bigger. And the books of now, since you guys read it as a graphic novel, this might not make a big distinction, but I think the story has 2 big parts. One is it from 1 to 3. Issues 1 to 3 is the story of how he gets the ship. Mm-hmm. 4 and 5 is the stories of how he proves himself to be a leader, a big gun in this entire empire. He proves his loyalty to the crew. He proves his loyalty to the Terran Empire, and he proves how he is actually the Picard of the Mirrored Universe. And that's what I love the most, is that they did that 2009 Star Trek thing, and that worked in its favor so highly. It's unbelievable how good this is.
Absolutely. And the artwork is just stunning. I think the way that they handled the artwork in this is just blew me away. Every single frame, I couldn't wait to turn the page. We'll talk about more later, specific favorites and everything, but I think the composition in this is, it's movie quality.
The characters look like they essentially came to life in the book. There is not one person that does not look like their TV counterpart. Would you guys agree?
They're perfection, all of them.
And even down to the cameo appearances like Brahms and Jellicoe and all these minor characters. We're just given all these really fantastic minor characters. Guinan. Can you imagine a mirror Guinan? She would be so scary.
We don't have to imagine because it's right here in We Are Broken.
Yeah.
Since you brought up Guinan, I have a couple things about her. She reminded me of just like a crazy homeless lady. Running through, one of my favorite parts is just her like knocking down crewmen, just running through the halls trying to get to the bridge of the ship.
It's in a strange way, it made sense to me because in our regular universe, or prime or whatever universe you call it, Guinan is a very controlled, calm, self-assured person, while everybody on the Enterprise is insane. If you think about it, in the TNG's Enterprise, every episode we see them going from red alert to this ship is going to be destroyed to we are all going to die to what is going to happen to all of us, while she's the one who's calm and self-assured. In this chaotic mirror universe, everybody's calm and self-assured and they know where they're getting, they know who they hate, they know who they like, while Guinan is like the prime universe Enterprise character. She's like, oh my God, what is going on? She looks crazy and deluded.
And I like that she gets transported in her own like chamber for everyone else's safety.
Right, just this huge box. What's in the box?
You think, is there a tardigrade in there or something? No, it's the
I would have
only.
laughed if it had been a tardigrade because it came out around the same time as Discovery did.
So I want to talk briefly about the prologue, which is book 0, and kind of sets this all up. I thought it was really an interesting choice that they started the narrative by introducing us to Barclay. I think of all the characters, I think it's really fascinating because on the scale of characters in TNG, I don't think you could swing the pendulum more with anybody other than Barclay. So it's really a brilliant move to have somebody who's so meek and, unsure of himself be this like evil plotting genius. What did you guys think?
He's so confident in this book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way he just stabs Tasha Yar right in the back.
And not to get ahead of favorite panels, but one of my favorite panels is right after that. The composition of the handshake of him and Picard, and his hand is covered in blood. I think that's like something out of a good Scorsese film.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm looking at it right now.
That, coupled with the fact that at the end of the book he says, all I've ever wanted to do is kill Picard, I think that is setting us up to whenever we see the inevitable end of this series, he is the one who's going to kill Picard. And we see that full turn in the mirrored universe. Barclay is not an unassuming, scared person. He becomes one of the big guns. But speaking of characters and focus, I did like that not that the book subverts your expectations. There is very little Riker. Riker is a little more than like a glorious extended cameo. There is very little characters that you'd imagine would take the spotlight. Instead, they focus it on people like Barclay and Jellicoe and Troy. And like we get Data, but we get Data who's trying to discover this evil version of himself. And Data is a little badass as the android who goes around saying, I don't know what kind of android I am, but let's find out. If you provoke me, he says to Riker, if you provoke me, we'll get together, we'll fight it out and see what kind of android I really am. So yeah, Data is definitely a surprising badass.
And his little Inspector Gadget collection of arms for various uses.
You know what? Speaking of those arms, when I was reading it, it threw me off a little because he starts with the thing on his left arm, I think, and then it switches to the other arm in another issue, and I was like, wait a second, did they screw that up? And then he's just like, oh, let me get like my dress arm on, and he like takes it off and puts a regular arm on. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. He can just like swap them out.
What was your favorite character throughout the miniseries, Marty?
My favorite character, I really liked Picard. He was just like a classic bad guy. He was calm and calculated. He was just like the Picard we know in the Next Generation, but that kind of selfish, evil, mirror universe-y kind of person, which is to be expected from a Mirror Universe comic. But
yeah, absolutely.
What about you, Will? Sorry,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
If I had to pick a second choice, it would definitely be Deanna Troi.
Yeah. What about you, Will?
Definitely everything that Marty said about Picard. He doesn't get a lot of time in here, but I think, again, in terms of the swing and the pendulum of Prime and Mirror Universe, I love what they did with Wesley Crusher, because Wesley is such a pure character in TNG, and he's virtuous and he's brilliant and he has
Annoying.
nothing but even if he's annoying, he has nothing but the best
Shut up,
interests
Marty.
of the ship at heart. So to have him be this like genius sociopathic child who masks it all in a form of mental handicap. Meanwhile, he's Kaiser Soze in this book.
Yeah.
Wesley is Kaiser Soze in this book, and I love the frames where he's like bent, hunched over, acting meek, and Picard says something to him, and he just straightens up and he's like, "Yeah, I'll do it."
Yeah, that two panel that's stuck on the top of one of those pages where he goes from the bent down, crazy jonesing person to like, oh yeah, congratulations, Picard. Like as soon as Picard calls his bluff, that's just one of the many good art pieces in there. To second what Marty and you said, all those characters were great, but definitely my favorite in this one was Deanna Troi, because they did what great character development stories do, is that throughout the story, you see one side of Deanna Troi where she's completely loyal to Picard and his mission. And at the very end, she finds Riker and she says, this ship will be yours one day. You just have to wait for it. You just have to wait till the time is right. So where they unleash that other side and they just tease you, that's one of the cool joys of having a comic book ongoing, is that you get to follow those stories through, and they do it right. They set it up, and if you're not looking for it, you won't find it. But throughout the book, you see she's playing every side to her advantage, much like her Face of the Enemy, Deanna Troi. We actually get that full blown in the Mirror Universe.
I'm gonna coin a phrase here. I'm gonna say, "It missed me." Imzadi in reverse.
What about now let's get into that favorite panels. What was yours, Will?
Well, for me, all of the starship porn. I think the artwork of the battles in this were just incredible. The scene where the ISS Enterprise D splits into three. I've always loved the saucer separation sequences on the show, and to have the idea of a warship sequence, and then the frame of the Mirror Universe version of the Picard maneuver, where you just have like a dozen star drive sections firing torpedoes on this armada. Because I mean, theoretically, in the Picard maneuver, you could probably keep going with it. We never saw him do it more than once, but a ruthless, psychopathic Picard would probably just keep warping as fast as he could.
Oh yeah, good point. Those are the starships are definitely. I almost would argue that the Enterprise itself is a character in this book, because she's the prize that everyone is fighting for, and once Picard gets it, it becomes so intertwined with who he is, and it just immediately that identity is set, and they actually their lives are saved that day because they had the Enterprise. Any other ship, and they would have been screwed.
I also really liked the barroom brawl with Riker and Picard. I thought that was great when they're throwing tables and chairs at each other and everything. You can just see it happening.
Yeah, at one point Picard rock bottoms Riker, which I quite liked. He was like, he lifts him up and bam.
Yeah.
And my favorite panel is actually from that scene. There is toward the corner, it's easy to miss. Riker is throwing a chair toward Picard, and you see the force with which he throws it. And we see it from Picard's point of view. So we see that chair coming at us like it shot it out of a cannon, and it's flying straight toward us. Yeah, that's the one. And, and you can see it like just the force with which he hits it, and Picard's face goes, yeah. That's one. And I quite liked the first panel too, like the first panel of issue number 1, which is the two Kirks on two planet Earths.
Yes.
That shows that photorealism that J.K. Woodward and Charlie Kutroff, I could be wrong on that name, those guys are going for. That really sets you up immediately for the fact that, yeah, these are going to be, what you're going to read in these pages are going to look so good, you will imagine them as a TV series or episodes. Just that very first panel where they describe, just set us up for that universe. You see a smiling Kirk transposed over Earth, and then you see a smiling Mirror Kirk transposed over Earth. That's in that issue 1, and it's just so beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about you?
I too like the frame with the saucer separation. I liked the frame that had the giant transporter that they set up in the cargo bay that had like 100 people on it. I thought that was really cool. I like the scenes where Jellicoe was being blown out into space.
Oh yeah, the airlock
really
scene.
Well done.
Yeah, that was terrifying.
The space battles, of course, those were incredible. And then the alternate covers, I really liked the Beverly Crusher alternate cover. It's the one where she's holding the agonizer, the one that was done by George Calstotis. I also really liked the Joe Cornely realistic cover, one of the first of the bonus covers at the end of the book. The photo, it was the one that they took photos from the show and made a cover out of it.
Yeah.
And the Jen Bartel cover with the green backgrounds. I really like that one as well.
And there's one that's
Riker, Picard, and Data just standing on like a green sky background with the Enterprise D flying overhead.
Yeah, and there's one that's out there that our good friend Madison Spencer showed me that is not in this volume. If you have the Volume A omnibus one, but it's kind of I don't know if it was an exclusive or a special or something, but it's just like profiles of the Prime and Mirror people looking at each other, and I always like that one as well. If you go out on the internet and find that, listeners.
That might be part of the new series too.
That's true because they are continuing this on.
Yeah, through the mirror, each cover is one of the main characters looking at their mirror counterparts. Because that series is Picard actually going to the real universe to get another Enterprise, and this time he wants the actual Enterprise. So that's what that series is about. Yeah. Anyway, I've said everything I can positively about this book. I've quite enjoyed it. It's definitely one of the best Trek books. When I say one of the best, I mainly am referring to the comic books. It's definitely one of the best Trek series. But I do have a couple of issues with the book. One of them is that, like issue 0, it was a free issue provided to people, but it just feels like filler to me. Because the Barclays arc where he goes from not being the security officer to being the security officer, that's all he is for the rest of the series. Like the only real turn you see at the end where he says like, oh, I something along the lines of, I want to kill Picard, and now everybody on the ship wants to do it. That didn't go anywhere to me. It would have been a lot more interesting had I actually seen someone on the ship try to actually counter Picard in some way. At no point did I actually feel like these guys are not going to get out of things, because there was no imminent threat to him from within his crew. Even though this issue 0 sets me up to believe that there is a character out there who literally killed people just to get power over. Like there is the one threat which goes on for 2 pages where Picard is working out and somebody presses a button that gets him stuck. But that felt like a little bit of filler to me. And my second one is the whole mentally handicapped Wesley Crusher. I don't know why that was in the book. It could have just as easily been regular Wesley Crusher, the boy genius, and we could have just taken the story from there. Like there was no reason to me that felt like that was needed in some way. But that's just, again,
I liked it because I felt like, in a mirror universe, in TNG he's never boastful, but he doesn't hide the fact that he's a genius kid and that he can do whatever he wants. So I like the idea that in this one he's calculating enough to not reveal the genius to people, and that, also it kind of speaks to Beverly that she hides it, that she encourages him to keep the veil up so that he can, help her advance in her career. So that's where I found the value in that. The thing with the Barclay one, I loved it because, like I said, it kind of established the meekest character of TNG, and to me that related very much to In a Mirror Darkly with Enterprise, because I think it's arguable that Hoshisato is the meekest character on the Enterprise NX-01 bridge, and she winds up being the Empress of the Empire by the end of the story. So it really shows you that in the Mirror Universe, everything is fully topsy-turvy.
Oh, yeah. They do the same thing in DS9, where Kira is not someone who is oppressed anymore. She's the oppressor.
Yes, exactly.
So that definitely bleeds over. And again, this is like me looking with my comic book writer's eye, going, what's really not working, and going into the microscope of it. But no, this is absolutely, none of that is to say this is not a great series. It's worth every dollar you guys spend. And I just think it's, would you guys agree with me when I say, if they actually made this into a TV or movie series or show, they couldn't do better than like just show us the story, just give us the story.
No, in fact, it's even better to have it in this way, because this would not have been filmable in the constraints of budget, even on a Trek film, I don't think. So what they did there, I think, is really incredible, and to have a visual representation of this is great. And one other character that I just wanted to talk about without glossing over him that I think is a really interesting character, and this is Geordi. I think Geordi is really fascinating, and I love one of the lines that he has in here, because in TNG, Geordi never uses his blindness as it's never a detriment to him. He's got his visor, but he also, he works with it, and he's never bitter about it. And I love the line when he says, "I'm tired of being ignored, tired of being mocked for my disability. Unless I find new ways of operating, I'm always going to be left behind. All the work I do for Enterprise is unrewarded, and I don't even have a position or quarters on board." So I just love that you have Geordi, who is this incredibly well-balanced character on TNG, and he's just a complete mess of a human being in this mirror universe.
You've both talked about your favorite panels. I'd really like to hear some of your favorite scenes in the series. You have one scene that really spoke to you, like you were saying with Geordi, like the monologue that he gives. Is there anything like that you guys really liked?
Yeah, Marty, why don't you go ahead?
Nothing that was that profound to me. I did catch that line from Geordi, and I'm glad you brought it up. But there was a couple of moments that made me laugh that I really liked.
Okay.
There's one where Barclay is talking to Data. He says, "You and Guinan have something in common, Data. Captain Picard seems to have a real soft spot for misfits and hard luck cases like you two." Data replies, "Processing. Very interesting. I had never considered this before. Does the captain's soft spot include you as well, Mr. Barclay?" I was just like, Data's throwing some shade.
That is a tennis match right there.
Yeah.
It's going back and forth really well.
I also think at one point, Barclay goes, "Hey, Data, may I ask you something?" And Data goes, "Yeah, you certainly are entirely able to. Whether you may or may not is entirely your prerogative." I think it's when they're doing something in the ship. But the scene that spoke to me a lot was the way Picard gets Riker in that barroom brawl. Mm-hmm. It goes from two strangers, to people fighting each other and realizing they're equals or almost equals, and then just sitting down to take a break. And on that break, they realize, wait, we both want to get to the same place. Why don't we help each other out? That is very much in line, or in spirit, in line with the Riker and Picard introduction we see in the Prime universe, where it's two people sitting in a situation, not really negative in any way, but they know that both of them have ambitions that are bigger, and they know they can help each other out. Just the way they get to it, from regular discussion in the Prime universe to a barroom brawl, that really felt good to me.
Yeah, Absolutely. For me, one of my favorite scenes was the confrontation between Data and Riker, where it shows you so much about Data as a Mirror Universe character, and I just love the way that he presents that. If you mess with Picard, you will be dead.
Yeah.
As far as critique goes, I have one missed opportunity that I felt in this, which I think would have
Oh,
been
me
a
too.
great
I
time.
wonder if it's the same one.
Yeah, so let's see. So one of the things I think would have been a missed opportunity to tie into another mirror universe is when they go to Neptune Station, and you've got this alien lizard character. I don't know if that's supposed to be a Gorn or not, but I felt like that would have been a perfect place for Mirror Dr. Phlox to have been there, because we know he has a long lifespan, and he's so sadistic in the Enterprise mirror universe. I would have loved to have seen him as commandant of that torture station.
That would have been awesome to see. A little throwback there.
I also have a missed opportunity bone to pick with these guys while
Yep.
we're all going at it. In the
Yeah.
barroom brawl, we see an alien bartender. I don't know if you guys saw him closely, but I want to say like that is the same species as Mon from DS9.
Oh, is that Illurian?
Yeah, and if you I don't know if you guys got that, but yeah, he was is it Lurian?
Lurian, I think.
Yeah, he that could have definitely been Mon, and they could have
I
at
see
least.
what you mean. I'm looking at it
Yep.
right now. That is definitely Illurian.
Yeah.
And you've got I always forget the names of the one who put the spear through Picard's heart. You've got a lot of aliens referenced in this one shot. You've got Andorians, you've got Mares's species, you got Bolians. Yeah, the bar is really an interesting choice to have all these characters in there.
It's like a Star Wars bar almost.
And I love the frame of
I'm gonna
Picard
get Bay
entering
Prize for saying that.
through the swinging doors like a Western.
I do appreciate the subtlety of Mon going from bar patron who's silent to bartender who's silent in this.
Yeah,
in
that's
this
great.
series.
That's great. So my one big missed opportunity / nitpick, because personally I thought that Beverly Crusher, sorry Madison, was the weakest character in this novel. And I'm sure Madison is going to be a much better Mirror Crusher than this Mirror Crusher was at STLV. If you don't know what I'm talking about,
You will.
you can message me privately. But their last name is Crusher. What a missed opportunity that was to just not make them a crushing character.
Well, it's not over yet. We could get a future episode where she just unleashes a toxin on every person on the ship or something.
I would just love it if she was known as the Crusher because of like some bad thing she's done, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, Will. She actually says at one point when Picard is taking Wesley away, she says, "This is not over."
Yeah.
So they're definitely setting that up for a confrontation as well.
Well, I like also one of the prime tenets of the Mirror Universe is whoever's in command has to constantly be looking over their shoulder.
Right.
And I think by the end of this series, Picard look at it. So you've got Riker and Troy plotting against him. You've got Crusher bitter at him exposing Wesley as a genius, and Wesley would obviously go with her. And you've got Barclay, who, although Data is loyal, he does plant a seed in Data at one point early in the series. So, I think every single person except for Guinan really is, in a position to take Picard down. So it really fulfills that Mirror Universe idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like Clue, who's going to be the one to take him down first.
Guys, what would your rating be for this one? Out of like a scale of 1 to warp 10, warp 1 to warp 10.
Transwarp drive.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm very sparing with my reviews, but like I said, honestly, I love this. I think this is my favorite graphic novel that I have ever read.
So far.
Just because so far, I mean, I'm sure there's other things that have come up, but I have wanted this for so long. And even before I read it, I play Star Trek Timelines a lot, and they did a whole Mirror Universe mega event.
I
And
think that was
one of my
based on this
favorite.
book as well.
Oh, it absolutely is. The cover art of Picard is the cover art they use for Picard's character on there, and Picard is like one of my favorite Mirror Picard is one of my favorite characters to use on there because he's such a badass. He's got so many PowerPoints.
Nice plug for Star Trek Timelines, by the way.
Mine would probably be I want to give him a 9. I'll go a what 9. I don't
Marty,
know if I'd quite go R10, but yeah, definitely what 9.
Marty, how about you?
I'm at cruising speed of warp 8.5.
All right.
Guys, since we're talking about other things that branched off from this, did you know that Fansets has a series of Mirror Universe pins?
Yes, I have the Battleship Enterprise pin. I bought it at STLV last year, and it is on my backpack.
I believe they have everything from like the Mirror, Picard, Data, Riker to even the logo of the Terran Empire. It's beautiful. I own. That's like I've spent so much money on fansets at this point. It's embarrassing.
Well, we love fansets, and they're great, and they've supported the network in the past on many things, so we always support them. And I have many too. My bag is weighted down with glorious pins. I keep my ISS Enterprise D right next to my Enterprise D1.
Nice.
D1?
The Enterprise D pin. They have like the big circular ones with the ships on them and their logos. So I have Prime and Mirror right next to each other on my backpack.
Oh.
Yeah. I have not continued on in this series, so I'm very curious to hear where it goes. I think there's just endless possibilities in here, and I'm really excited to know that they're actually continuing this on because I was really disappointed when we did our Green Lantern series and I got so deep into it and then found out that it was discontinued. So I really hope they can continue on with this and do some more great stuff in the future.
Well, I think we mentioned it on Weekly Trek that it is going to be winding down.
Mm-hmm.
I forget when. But I know they're winding down a few of their series at IDW. I think that has to do with the whole merger drama going on. But
Dun dun dun.
Well, what I can say is I can elaborate since I've been reading it. I can elaborate a little more on what they've done after it. Is they did a series called Through the Mirror, and they're still going with it, in which Mirror Picard realizes that the best thing that he can have is the Enterprise, but the only thing better than one Enterprise is 2. So he finds a way to get to our universe, and he finds the USS Enterprise. And the series is all about how he tries to take that over and join it into his armada, and whether he succeeds and how the Prime Universe reacts to them. So it's it's closer to like a Trek TV episode.
We'll call that the Lorca maneuver.
Sure, yeah, that does make sense. But yes, it's all I can say without spoilers is it's just as good, if not better.
Nice.
How many episodes do they have released for that so far?
I think they're down
episodes,
to 4.
Issues. How many issues do they have released for that so far?
I believe 4. They've gotten out to 4.
Well, when we get the volume issue, we'll definitely have you back and cover that, and I'm looking forward to that already. I have one more crossover character that I'd like to discuss the mirror counterpart of, and I just love this. I thought this was a great nod. Picard's fish in the Mirror Universe is a snake.
Yes, I caught that too. I was just like, oh, look at that.
Isn't that great? He's like, instead of a fish in a tank, he's a snake on a branch, and I think that's perfect for the Mirror Universe.
Yes, I like that as well.
Yeah, so much foreshadowing, so much intelligent imagery. I can see how this could be somebody's favorite graphic novel.
Yeah, it just, I mean, it really it hit every single point that I was looking for. I mean, composition. I call it cinematography because I envision it as a film in my head when I'm looking at it. I love the fact that they use Jellicoe as, the commander and that scenic, decompressing the shuttle bay and taking him into space. Just all across the board, I was really blown away by this. Really impressive. Yeah. So just really, really, really impressed.
Any final thoughts from you, Shashank?
It's an incredible miniseries. Make sure you go out, support it, find it, buy it, get it signed by the authors, share your love for the artist. I saw that even the tweet we put out was liked, and one of the replies was retweeted by J.K. Woodward. So he clearly is very communicated with the fans. The artwork is incredible. At a lot of places in the book, I really felt like the characters had come back to life, and I'm seeing a whole new side of them that I've never seen before. So everything all around is great, except for my tiny nitpicks, which don't matter in the long run. Go out, support it. Just another reason why you should be supporting comics on a bigger scale, but go to your local comic book store, get all your Mirror Broken and Through the Mirror issues if you haven't already. But yes, great series all around. Unlike our last one where we had a bunch of critiques, this was like an hour of, we love this book, which I quite enjoyed.
Yeah, that's really fantastic. And so, Marty, what are your final thoughts on it?
I think I've said everything I have to say. I mean, I love it. I love the arts. I thought the art was just, the muted colors in the book were just beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It made, when there was color in the book, it made it really pop. I didn't mention the Mirror Universe dress uniforms, but I thought those were really cool as well.
Yeah.
Just everything about it was so well done. The photorealism of all the characters, and it was just fantastic. One of the most high quality comics.
Truly. Well, with that, I think we should go back in time a few months to WonderCon Anaheim, where Marty and I had an opportunity to chat with some of the creative forces behind this incredible volume. So let's take that away. All right, so this is Will Conlon and Marty Ali. We're at WonderCon Anaheim with Scott Tipton, David Tipton, and J.K. Woodward, the creative team behind Star Trek The Next Generation Mirror Universe series, Mirror Broken. So, guys, who initially thought up the idea of doing a TNG Mirror Universe?
Well, this is something that came from CBS and working with J.K. He was doing the designs.
Yeah, so I would say CBS initialized this. They started the idea of doing a style guide for products for a Mirror Universe, and there was no TNG Mirror Universe. There had been different books written, but it was all kind of chaos. So we kind of came with our own idea of the Mirror Universe that fit in with the Deep Space Nine continuity and everything else that was established. So basically, it was a redesign from the ground up, and it was just at first just for products, just for T-shirts and coffee mugs and phone cases and things like that. John Van Sitters from CBS and I were talking about this would be so great a comic book, because as we were creating the characters, visually it was just coming together, and we I wanted to know the stories, so we brought it over to these guys at IDW, and then it all sprang from there.
JK's style guide put together all the design elements, so we had something to work with on the story side. So we worked out on thinking, okay, how does the story going to work for these, for the individual issues and for the overall story, and then we meshed it all together with what JK put together in his art designs.
Excellent. So I'm going to ask each of you, what was your favorite aspect of the TNG Mirror Universe? So Scott?
The unexpected Data-Barclay partnership. They really we didn't expect Barclay to be as much of a factor as he was in the story, and I love writing him, and the friendship between those two was a surprise. It just kind of happened naturally. It was great.
Excellent.
I like the way that Mirror Picard is, in some ways, almost more interesting than regular Picard. Mirror Picard is better dealing with other human beings. He's much more of a people person in some ways, which is kind of a surprise to see. So that was something I really enjoyed.
And JK?
Visually, I enjoyed the color schemes. I enjoyed playing with sort of cold colors and subdued palettes, kind of taking the life out of the regular Enterprise and making everything a little bit darker in both mood and color scheme. And I enjoyed just the design. When you work the one drawback of working on Star Trek is everything's already designed, and you have to follow their designs. And I got to build something from the ground up, and outside of their faces and everything, I got to create costumes. And if I didn't know what engineering looked like on the Stargazer, well, it's a mirror universe. I can invent it. I didn't have to keep checking in with other people. I just make my own thing. That was a lot of fun for me, so I think I enjoyed that the most.
And I was Marty.
I'm good, yeah. Well, thank you for expanding the Star Trek mythos for all of us. I really enjoy it. Yeah.
So I have one more question, because I play Star Trek Timelines, the cell phone game, and they did a whole month-long Mirror Broken homage series. Did you guys actually do the artwork for that?
I think it's based on his design.
I didn't have anything to do with that. I think it was might be based on what was already done in the style guide.
All right, cool.
But yeah, I know. Didn't they have characters on the online too?
I don't play.
They had
online.
I think they had, because they have all the characters from different universes and different times, right? Mm-hmm. And then I think I saw somebody sent me a Mirror Picard.
Yes.
Yeah, it was based on the. Have you guys seen that?
Yeah.
It was so cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. And if you haven't read it yet, please check out Mirror Broken. It's an awesome series. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Well, that was great listening to that, and we look forward to talking with them again in the future and hearing what they have in store with more issues over at IDW. They are really doing some incredible crossovers and Trek content, so we thank them again for joining us. Marty, why don't you close out this great podcast?
All right. Well, next week on Reading Trek, I already mentioned it on the last couple shows ago, but we will be talking about John Scalzi's Red Shirts, which is just one of the most fun novels I have ever read. Spoiler alert, I loved it. This should be a great podcast for your trip down to STLV, if you'll be joining us there. Quick synopsis of the book. Ensign Andrew Dahl has just been assigned to the Universal Union capital ship Intrepid, flagship of the Universal Union since the year 2456. It's a prestige posting, and Andrew is thrilled all the more to be assigned to the ship's xenobiology laboratory. Life couldn't be better until Andrew begins to pick up on the fact that 1. Every away mission involves some kind of lethal confrontation with alien forces. 2. The ship's captain, its chief science officer, and handsome Lieutenant Kernsey always survives these confrontations. 3. At least one low-ranked crew member is sadly always killed. Not surprisingly, a great deal of energy below decks is expended on avoiding, at all costs, being assigned to an away mission. Then Andrew stumbles on information that completely transforms his and his colleagues' understanding of what the Starship Intrepid really is, and offers them a crazy, high-risk chance to save their own lives. If you're wondering how this ties into the Star Trek universe, you'll have to listen to the next episode, and I promise it will all be explained.
And I am personally really looking forward to listening to this, because I'm going to do the audiobook version, which is read by none other than Mr. Will Wheaton. So that's going to be really exciting.
Shashank, do you have any thoughts on Red Shirts by John Scalzi? Have you heard of it? Do you know about it? Do you want to read it?
I know who John Scalzi is. He's quite active on Twitter. I see him jumping in every now and then. But yes, from his synopsis, from what I've heard, it seems like a very interesting book. I'll definitely check it out. He's like always, he's weird, so the weirdness is great.
Yes, I love his writing because he's just a weirdo.
Yeah, that weird. Like if it weren't for weird people, where would we be in this world?
Well, this podcast wouldn't exist.
That's certainly true. Yeah,
and you wouldn't keep reminding me why Green Lantern's a good movie. So there is that going to do. Yeah. But yes, I'll definitely be looking forward to listening to your podcast, and I look forward to hopefully reading that book soon.
Well, Shashank, thank you so much for being here once again. We're always looking forward to having you on when we do our comic books and graphic novels.
Hey, Shashank, how about we make this a regular thing, huh?
Yeah.
In between novels.
Yeah, you just have to invite me and I'll be here. I do think it's timely that we hopefully talk about the Harlan Ellison written comic book series, also by IDW, City on the Edge of Forever.
Yes, absolutely.
He actually got the opportunity to, all these years later, give his full unadulterated CBS toned down script. So that's just a place for us to start. But you guys just invite me and I'll be more than happy to be back. I love talking about comics.
You know it's going to happen. Well, in the meantime, how can people get a hold of you online to continue the conversation?
Okay. I'm not on Facebook, but people can find me on Twitter on @gutter_hero. That is a comic book reference. The gutter is a comic book term which describes the space between two panels. And it's the space where your mind goes from one image to another. And so I thought it'd be neat if I played the word guitar hero on gutter hero. And yeah, that shows you how deep nerdy comic booky I am. So please follow me on @gutter_hero. I'd love talking about comics. Reach out. I'm more than happy to talk to everyone and geek out about comics. And you can also, when I'm not talking about comics or writing comics or doing comic book stuff, we do a very smart show because of my co-host Barry DeFord called PoliTreks, where he talks about all the smart things in the world, and we explore politics and social culture from the Trek lens. And I come in and make jokes and get to call myself the co-host. So
that show is the perfect blend of intelligence and comedy.
Yes, indeed. And if you aren't a Patreon already, I mean, just because of our show and what we put out, then please join Patreon just for the extra content that you get from PoliTreks, because their banter trek is so great.
PoliTreks is on the way.
Yeah, PoliTreks is on the way. Yep.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much, Shashank, and get your mind out of the gutter.
I'm going to try.
Marty, how can people get a hold of you?
You can find me at Time Travel Marty on Twitter. You can also find me on Facebook at the unofficial Star Trek Las Vegas convention group. If you're going to friend request me, though, please drop me a DM before you do, just so I know who you are. So if you've already friended me and I haven't accepted it, that's probably why. But yeah, and Will, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at William G. Conlin and in the unofficial Star Trek Las Vegas group, which is moderated by our wonderful Tricorder Transmissions leaders, Jeff Hewlett and Heather Barker. It's just such a great place to go. Even if you haven't been to the Vegas convention, get on there, become a member, and we'll get you there. You will not be able to escape the tractor beam that is STLV. Right, Shashank? You were there last year. That was your first time. Are you ever not going again?
No, over my dead body. I will be there every year until I'm a withered old man. And they actually discovered transporter technology so they can bring 95-year-old me. And I can go, oh my God, we're still doing Star Trek.
Love it. Love it. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. If you have enjoyed this podcast, then please take a minute and give us a review on iTunes or whatever platform you are using to listen to us. We really appreciate your feedback. Let us know what you think of it. And just keep on supporting us and all the other Tricorder Transmission podcasts. Everyone works really hard at these, and we're really proud of what we have put together. Once again, we have our voicemail that you can leave a message at, and you can contact us online at ReadingTrek. And with that, Mirror Captain Picard would like us to let him kill in peace. And that's why Mark Strong was the best Sinestro.
Oh, ouch. That physically hurts. That physically hurts.
I say more Senator Alec Baldwin.